Okay, we are live. Okay, welcome to the Successful Life Podcast. I am your host, Corey Berrier, and I am here with my mate, is it Jeroen? Is that how I say Jeroen? Jeroen? How do I say it?
Jeroen.
Jeroen. Oh, wow, I was way off. What's up, man? Glad to have you on today, and I'm actually really excited to hear about what all about your company, dude. I am so interested in, I'm just interested in learning more about your product and your company because it sounds like to me from what I've read, and I have not done a ton of homework. I'm just going to be honest with you, but from what I have read, it appears that you kind of encompass everything in your one CRM, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of stuff in there. The essence actually of what we built is that it takes all the information from all the different places where it already is. Like there's information in your mailbox, like obviously emails, but also the people you're in touch with, their email signatures, maybe email tracking. Linked to that, we can also have website tracking. Then there's stuff in your calendar, like meetings. There's calls in your phone. There's things in company databases. There's stuff on social media. And our software pulls it all together, because what you normally see in other CRMs is that salespeople basically spend their day taking the information from these places and putting it in the CRM manually, which nobody likes to do. You have to take every single piece of data, take it together in one place, because otherwise you can't really organize your sales properly. Our system takes that first step completely away. It makes that the data is there, you can curate it, and then based on that, organize your whole sales follow-up in a much more effective way.
I love that. I think what I am super impressed to hear about, and I want you to dive a little bit more into, is incorporating the different social media channels and somehow how that plays into the CRM. And maybe it's just me. I don't know if other CRMs do that. They don't, to my knowledge, but I'm certainly not an expert on CRMs either.
Yeah. Well, in terms of social channels, in the sense of social updates, this is a functionality that over time has become severely limited, because many social networks like to limit it. You can only read Facebook nowadays in Facebook. You can only read LinkedIn in LinkedIn. It's of the major social networks, it's only Twitter that still allows you to read it inside something else. What we do, however, next to that from social media is we take information from social media to enrich contact profiles. So there you also have a sort of a social media integration, but not directly from the social networks, because also there they don't allow that.
That makes sense. Yeah, it seems like each day that they limit more and more things. It seems like, which is a challenge for sure. So, what made you start this? To remind me of the name of the company again, and what made you start this company?
Yeah, the company is named Salesflare, so you can find all about it at salesflare.com. We started the company more than 7 years ago. I had been working myself with Salesforce for quite a while, like implementing it at customers, using it myself. Never really understood how I could use it myself practically. I saw how it could work for a company, like to organize the company itself. But for me as an end user, as a salesperson, it just seemed weird. Not something like my other apps which would actually help me that I had on my phone. It seemed like this enterprise thingy that was built for enterprises and not for me. Now, many years after that, I was working with my current co-founder in another software company. We had a lot of leads for our software. The only issue is we didn't have a great system to follow them up. And every single other CRM that we tried, I know Salesforce wasn't going to help, but we tried a bunch of other ones. We found some that were much more directed at helping you follow up leads, which was good already. But they still failed on us. Or actually, we failed on the CRMs because what happened is that we would try to keep up with all the data input that was needed, and at some point we would just fail. And the belief among everyone was that we were just lazy salespeople, and we just had to fill out the CRM. And if we would do that, stop being lazy, then it would all work out. But at some point, my co-founder and I were like, this doesn't make sense. I mean, maybe we are lazy, but the software comes with these expectations that are just unreasonable. And actually, all of the work we're doing is so unnecessary because the data already exists. So a system would be able to pull it all together. It was, of course, a sort of a complex idea we had in mind, and it took a while to develop. But it works in its full form for more than 6 years now. We got the first customer about 6 years ago. So.
That's fantastic. So, it's interesting because, obviously I'm a sales and business coach, and I work with a lot of salespeople, and I'm by default a salesperson. And, here's one of the things that I've always found about salespeople is, a CRM is absolutely important for people like me, because I'm just going to be transparent with you. Like, I'm a little unorganized, right? Which I think is a trait for most salespeople. And I believe that if you have something like this in place, will help you so much better with your follow-ups, which is unbelievably important, as you well know. And, I don't know how people get by without it, especially salespeople.
No, that definitely makes sense. What we see also is salespeople are people. They like to be in touch with people. They don't necessarily like computers. They don't like building a system to follow up and all. It is essential. Actually, the best salespeople have nailed how to do it. But with the software we saw out there, it was really, really hard. And imagine you as a salesperson, as your ultimate goal in the end is to build an intimate relationship with every customer where they feel respected as if they are the only customer you have out there. And you want to scale that. That's that really tight relationship. So you need to be very well organized if you want to pull that off. And that's a very hard thing for salespeople if you don't have something that supports you. And that was an issue we had, and that's why we started building, because we just hate disappointing customers. That's the first emotional issue. Is you just have to disappoint people if you're not properly organized, and then of course financially, and also you lose out on a lot of good opportunities.
So you may or may not have this statistic, but I thought I'd ask anyway. Just out of curiosity, do you have any idea how many salespeople don't use a CRM? Do you know what that number is?
It's a very good question, and I should know it, but I don't. But I would estimate it's probably. It depends also how you define it. If you mean they don't have a CRM available for them, I would say it's probably 50% or so. That would be my rough guess. If you say actually using the system they have available for them, I think it's probably just 5% using the system. Because in many cases it's set up in such a way that they might use it a little to satisfy their manager, put in some opportunities, update those now and then. But they in most cases they don't really use it for themselves. They might have their own system running next to that, just because the CRM makes it all so complicated to make it work.
And so, let me just go ahead and ask if you compare this to, how easy or not easy it is to use some of the other big name CRMs. Do you feel like yours is is it significantly more user friendly to salespeople? As you mentioned, we don't like technology, to a degree, yes, but to try to figure something out and on a computer, it sometimes it's slightly overwhelming. Let's just say that.
Yeah, well, I think there's two levels to this. When you talk about pure user friendliness, there's a lot of software that does quite a good job. So there it's a bit harder to differentiate. I mean, we go the extra mile. We try to make things look simple at first, and then you have some depth to it and not too many clicks and all this kind of stuff. So we definitely do a little better there, I think. But then when it comes to the second part to this, which is how easy it is to actually make the system work, that's where we make the real difference. Because in other systems, you would have all this work you would have to do to make it work, and in our system, that is much more limited.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think that's probably one of the reasons most salespeople don't like you said. It's a very small percentage that don't use a CRM. That's probably why, because you get in and it just seems a little bit. It seems complicated, or it seems like you've got to jump through certain hoops and you've got to do certain things, and maybe it just doesn't register with the folks that are trying to use it, or whatever the case may be. But for me, I'm just not going to spend all day trying to set up, a CRM, and because I just don't have the patience, right? I just don't have the patience. So I guess that's when you go and you hire somebody, obviously. So how do you guys walk people through? Somebody like me who is, I'm a really smart person. I'm just not really great with computers. So how do you walk somebody like me through that?
Yeah, well, we have a lot of different levels depending on what you like yourself. Like first, when you come on the software, there's a setup guide that appears at the bottom left, which tells you exactly which steps to do to set up the software. If you click on it, it leads you to the right place. If you have done it, it automatically checks it off. But also on every step, it has an article and a video. Some people like to read, some people like to watch videos. That depends. Then we also help people via the chat. We help people if they like on Zoom calls. Everything is possible. If it's a slightly larger team, we do trainings where we like to explain the software, and if the company also can help us specify how they want to use it, which is another level to getting set up really well. Like a sort of common understanding within the team of how you want to use the software, because you can use the software in many ways. Then that's we also help with that.
Sure. So do you have live support, or is it just chat? Or you mentioned that you guys will hop on a Zoom call. Is that pretty easy to access for anybody that uses the software?
Yeah, actually, anyone, if you just go to the site, you can book a demo now. There's a calendar that shows when we still have spots. You just click one and you'll get a calendar request and everything, and the Zoom call is there ready for you. This is accessible to people who want to get a demo, for people who want to get set up, for people who have questions at any point. And this is next to our normal chat and email support. You can actually talk to a person if you like.
Very nice. I like that. So, I guess I'd love for you to get into, I know you mentioned that, you used to work for Salesforce. Did you go in and did you train people on how to use Salesforce? Is that what you did for them?
No, actually, I worked in a consultancy that used Salesforce internally and that also implemented Salesforce at customers. And that was usually within a bigger project. So we would do full marketing sales projects, mostly in pharma companies, in general, life sciences companies, healthcare, where we would modernize the way they would go about their marketing and sales, often digitalize. And there, the CRM would be a big part of it, of course, because that's where everything is organized, where it comes together. So.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. Okay, very nice. So you obviously work with both individuals and you work with companies. So I guess my question would be, what differentiates you from the other CRMs, if you could just kind of run through that list. I know we've talked about a couple of them already, but I would love for you just to give us some examples of why Salesflare is better than the rest of the other CRMs that are out there.
Yeah, on the very high level, that's what I said. It's the ease of use and the level to which it's automated to help you not having to do too much work. On top of that, automated data, by the way, we built more automation. So Salesflare, because there's so much data, because it's not you filling out the data, it's computer, and computer can find way more. It can do all kinds of cool things, like it can tell you when you haven't been in touch with a customer for a certain amount of days, it can remind you. It can tell you that a certain email you haven't responded to yet, and you also haven't archived or deleted it, and it's from a customer you want to follow up. So it gives you a reminder. It can tell you if you want that you forgot to add meeting notes somewhere, so you keep that up to date. The notes is not something that the system automatically picks up somewhere. You still have to copy your notes in there. What it can also do is send automated emails when certain things happen. We have a thing called email workflows in there, where you can set certain criteria, or you can define an audience, and then they can get a personalized email, and then maybe a second personalized email or a third one. That's all possible. Some of the things that others don't have the same way is the way in which our email tracking is integrated with website tracking. So when you send an email from Salesflare itself, or you send it from Gmail or Outlook with the Salesflare sidebar, because you don't need to necessarily send from Salesflare. Some systems also require that. In our case, you choose, because Salesflare can integrate there as well. When you do that, you have open and click tracking. So you can see when people open your emails, when they click on them. But then if you install a website tracking script on your site as well, then it can also follow people on the website seamlessly all together. So you can see it in one timeline. Actually, we have a worked out notification center. It's a weird thing, but most CRMs don't have a notification center like, for instance, in Facebook. If you look in our notification center, you can scroll and you see all the different things that happened about which you got notifications. Like Corey went to the site, he opened my email, he sent an email. Sent an email as default is off as a notification, but my colleague sent me a message about you in the timeline and all those kind of things. I can just scroll. Another thing which most CRMs don't have is our system auto updates based on email signatures. So if you send me an email with your email signature and it says your phone number, it says your address perhaps, and maybe it specifies some social profiles in the signature or whatever, the system sees the email signature and then it interprets it. So it says, well, that's your social profile, that's your address, that's your phone number, and it stores it automatically on the contact. So I don't need to start copying over. It basically feeds itself. Then our system also automatically makes an overview of files you exchange. So if we would have been exchanging, you would have sent me some kind of NDA form or whatever, or a proposal. Then I have an overview where I can see all the attachments we exchanged with each other in one place. And I could probably still go on like this for a while, but I don't want to start boring people with feature list either.
No, but I'm really interested to hear. I'm interested to learn more about this because I do find it truly fascinating because it really is the alternative to not alternative. It's almost a tool that you need to have in your toolbox if you're a salesperson. I don't care what kind of salesperson you are, especially if you're consulting or you're working for different companies like myself. You have to have some way to keep up with this stuff. Now, I think it's just so incredibly important. So, yeah, I'd love to hear more about it. And so, before you jump right back into that, you have a partner, right, in the company. You have you mentioned a co-founder, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you guys come together and decide to start this company?
Yeah, that's we were lucky to come up with the idea together, in the sense that we were working on this software company together, and we had this issue to follow up our leads, and then we were thinking like, why do we have to fill this all out to make it work? Why can't we have something that reminds us, that keeps track of everything? And we were working on business intelligence software back then, which is essentially software that sits on top of data and helps that that makes that you can report on it, like you can make sense of the data. So it was sort of connected. We thought about this idea together. We thought, well, this would be cool if we would have this, and then we thought it would in general be cool if it existed. We could make it for other people, and very quickly we started finding this more interesting than what we were doing before. So we started focusing on this and dropped the other thing.
Yeah, well, it also helps to have a great deal of interest in your product, right? I mean, if you see that it works really great, and you see that it's lack of better terms, it's plugging the holes in the boat. In other words, it's plugging the holes where you saw the holes in the boat. If it fixes those things for you, it probably fixes them for other salespeople.
Yeah, we still use our system super actively every day. Like the whole interaction with you, for instance, you were contacted by my partnership manager, Carrie. I can track the whole interaction she had with you. We communicate within the timeline about this podcast, and that in that way we can neatly work together, and we can also follow up a lot of podcasts at once. I've been on, I think, 200 podcasts in the past year, and that's only possible because we have this way of automatically sending emails, because we track all the data properly. Carrie knows exactly what to follow up and when. We have an overview of everything basically in one place. And that's just one of our pipelines. Like in the software, we have different pipelines for different types of opportunities. Podcasts is one of those.
That's awesome, dude. That's something that I don't have my podcast information integrated into my CRM, because I really just didn't look at it like, I guess I just didn't think about integrating it in, because I don't do a podcast every day. So I guess I didn't even think about it. So now that I've got multiple email addresses, you can integrate every email address that I have, correct?
We can. That's actually also something that most CRMs don't do. To Salesflare, you can connect any email address that you have. You can connect to your Gmail that you have, or maybe you have an email on another domain somewhere. You can connect them all in one place, and it will pull all the information together.
Nice. That's really cool. So, okay, so let's hear a little bit more about you. We've talked about the software. Let's talk about a little bit more about you, the company, and what you guys are working on now. Are you working on anything new?
Yeah, always. Currently, we have a very exciting feature in beta, which is what I said before, like business intelligence, like reports based on data. We have built a very easy to use reporting system into Salesflare now, where you can actually build your own graphs on top of your data, different graph types, different data. You can select it. I hope that when we exit beta, it's easier than Excel to use. But really, it's like you see the graph, you say, I want to have this on this axis, that on that axis. I want to segment it that way, and I want that data, and I want it to filter only that data. That's something that we're soon going to release. And then afterwards, I think the next thing is an upgrade to this automated email system that I mentioned. And I think that the next thing after that will be working on a LinkedIn sidebar. So I mentioned earlier that social networks make it very difficult to integrate with them. We have a lot of demand for LinkedIn, and we're going to create something that allows you to, when you are in LinkedIn, you can see your CRM data, and you can easily take someone, like I see you on LinkedIn, I say add Corey to Salesflare. and please guess his email address. Also add him to Salesflare done, so that you don't have to sort of work in two places. That's the third feature in the roadmap.
Okay. Wow, that sounds really cool. So when do you think you will roll this out?
That's a very good question. We'll actually roll it out in lots of different sub-features. First of them will be an added functionality, or I don't have to explain that. The second one will be a finding email feature. And then the third one will be the LinkedIn sidebar. I would expect it to be somewhere, is it now June? Probably after the summer.
Okay, cool. So, you mentioned, what was the second thing that you just mentioned? You had mentioned it earlier about, I think it was the sidebar, right? You were saying that, I believe you were saying that you can okay, can I, if the piece about LinkedIn, is it the sidebar that you mentioned earlier? Is that what you were referring to?
So the integrating with LinkedIn is a sidebar. So you're on LinkedIn, you look at someone's profile, or you look at a company, or you look at a conversation with someone. At that moment, you can say, okay, who is this with? It's this guy at this company. You can say, oh, I didn't add that company yet to the CRM. Click, and it's in there with all the information we have about the company. And I also want to add the person. And then you're like, do you want to guess the email address for the person? Yes. And then that's in there as well. And then basically you can say, okay, did I communicate earlier with that person? See the timeline. Did you exchange files? What did they say on Twitter? All these kind of things will also be available in that sidebar.
Okay, so you can. So that, I think that's actually guessing the email. So that may be something that all CRMs have, but if it does, I don't know that I know about that. So you're saying that if I pull if I find you on LinkedIn, I add you to my network, whatever, and I want to then take all your information and put it into Salesflare, it'll pull, and I don't have an email address on LinkedIn for some crazy reason. You're saying that your CRM will try to guess what that is.
Yeah, I don't think there's many CRMs that have that. Mostly you're using some separate tool for that. And there are tools like that you have a little Chrome plugin, and then when you're on a profile of someone, you say guess their email address. And some of them then integrate to CRMs. But I don't right off the bat know of a CRM that has it integrated. By the way, you said for some crazy reason there's no email address. Actually, if you are on first level connections, then very often when you're on the profile, you click contact details, there's an email address. But that will almost never be the case when you're on second level or third level connections. In that case, the email address is hidden. What we will do is we will see where you work. Based on that, we can know what the domain is, the end of your email address. We know your first name, we know your last name, and then our system will start finding the right permutation, the right version of your email address based on that.
And I guess you verify it by some form of checking to see if it bounces back or something like that, right?
There's a few methods for checking. We built an email finder like this many years ago once as a promotional stunt. At that moment, we used 3 different methods to verify. Right now, we don't know yet. We haven't fully scoped that part yet, but it's probably going to be similar.
Sure. So now let's talk about what is the cost for the CRM? What are the different levels? I'm sure there are multiple levels of packages that you offer. Do you mind diving into that for us?
It's very, very simple. Actually, until recently, we only had one package, but then end of last year, we introduced another one because we had some more advanced functionalities. It's mostly for slightly larger teams, and they wanted to pay more. So we're like, okay, that's great for us. So we have the growth plan, which has most of the functionality, comes at $29 a month per user if you pay annually, and $35 if you pay monthly. And then the new plan is the Pro plan, which comes at $49 or $55, depending on annual or monthly payment per user per month. And then we also have an enterprise plan, which is only annual. It's $99, but that's not very popular. That's if you really want very extensive support. But we already offer quite extensive support in the other plans as well. So.
That's really not. I mean, that's extremely comparable to anybody else. I would say that's right in line with where everybody else is. Maybe even a little bit less expensive, actually.
No, it's indeed right in line. Like if you look at the pricing pages of most CRMs, you'll see almost the same thing in different places. That's because it's a very competitive market where people basically go check different systems. The pricings really nicely line up to a certain extent, the products as well, but you'll inevitably see different ways in which they're built, different sort of nuances, different goals with which they're built. We focus very much on ease of use and automating stuff. Others might focus much more on offering any feature you can think of. Others will focus on covering every single need you might have across departments. There's all kinds of different approaches to this.
Sure. So let me ask you, what's your favorite part about what you do? What do you love the most about what you do?
I love building stuff, and this is across many areas. I really like building a product. It's really something that you see growing and that you're always tinkering with. Like yesterday, we spent a lot of time thinking about this new custom dashboards functionality and how what we've created already in beta, we can actually make foolproof and easier to use, prettier to a certain extent, where everything, like, you need to take a lot of things together and then make like, okay, how can this work as a system? That's a lot of fun. Then the general experience around that. So how do people find out about us? What do they read then? How do they come on the software? How are they guided from there? This is an experience that spans the marketing, the website, the support, the product. That's also a lot of fun to work on. Our team is a lot of fun to build it, to not just build our culture and our team, but also the way we work together, our processes. As we are a relatively small team serving a lot of customers, and that's only possible because we have very strong processes and we automate. Most of what we do in the company is fully automated. And then I also really like writing. And this is another aspect to this is trying to help people to do sales. And there's a lot of shitty content out there. The thing about sales is that people who do sales are generally not extremely good at writing articles, nor structuring those. So there's an enormous gap because that makes then that most of the content about sales is written by people who don't know anything about sales, aka copywriters. So we spend a lot of time writing quality content for salespeople, which then ranks quite well in Google. And that helps a lot of people to do sales in a better way, and then sideways also promote Salesflare.
Yeah, it's interesting because here's the thing: if you strategically plan whatever it is you're writing out, and you use certain tools like SEMrush, right? SEMrush is I think a fairly common area for people to find whether their content is going to land or whether it's not going to land. And so I think Well, I think it's a common thing, but I could be wrong because if it was as common as I thought it was, we would have a lot better articles written by salespeople. But the reality is, you're right. There's not a lot of great articles that are written by salespeople, and I never looked at it that way until you just mentioned it.
Yeah, actually, I also only figured that when I was like compiling masterclasses for a blog. I like to define a bunch of topics and then also create a story through it and make it a blog series so that people can also follow it if they like one by one. And then I came up with a sales masterclass. I was a sales acceleration masterclass, if I remember well. And then I looked for someone to write it. And that was horrible. We had done a content marketing masterclass before that. That was easy because content marketers who write about content marketing. I had a friend who was really good at it, so she wrote it. Startup funding masterclass, doable. People who are busy with M&A and funding and all, they're used to writing. They can be very structured and clear, so that was not an issue. But then salespeople, that's just really, really difficult to find someone in sales that can write long texts very well. I'm not talking about a short email and being convincing and all that, but really articles is difficult. So that makes that there's not a lot of content and not a lot of good content out there for salespeople actually, which is a pity. And we try to fill that gap.
All right. So what is your favorite sales book?
I usually don't really do favorites. And actually it works like this. The last thing that sort of blew my mind in a certain area is then my favorite, but only shortly. I think the last great sales book that I read was called... do I have it here behind me? No, I don't. Oh, there, yeah, I do. It's called Demand Side Sales. It's actually a book written by someone who pioneered the Jobs to be Done framework, which is a framework with which you think up products and marketing and all that, and sales also next to that. But it's really more of a product thinking kind of thing, which starts from the customer, and that is applied on sales. And it's really, really interesting because most sales books you read things about prospecting techniques or negotiation, but in this case it's really about thinking strategically about what is let's say the buying journey of the person.
Yes.
What you take them from point A to point B. What does point A look like? What does point B look like? What is the journey from point A to point B? What are the forces that work on these people? Like if you're in point A, you might want to go to point B, but maybe what attracts you to point B? That's one of the forces. What holds you back from going to point B? Because you might be afraid of certain things there. But there's also things that keep you in point A. What do these forces look like? And there's forces that push you away from point A because you don't like it. And what do these forces look like? So all these kind of things are sort of covered in that framework, applied to sales, and it was super interesting.
So you mentioned negotiation. Have you ever read Never Split the Difference?
It's actually the book I'm currently reading.
Really? That's too funny. So I won't ruin it, but it's by far one of the best books, I believe. I don't know. There's something about that book that just landed for me. A lot of it landed for me. I really enjoyed. I enjoyed it so much that I actually went on and bought his masterclass because I wanted to learn a little bit more about it. I love it. So,
was the masterclass worth it, or?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Okay. You were going to ask.
So, have you gotten to the point? Yeah, have you gotten to the point of where he talks about the hotel, going to where he's in the hotel?
No, I don't think so.
So then I'll just tell you this one part. So he talks about, he says, my wife called down to get a late checkout, and they said no. He said, so my mother-in-law, I think it was, called down, and they told her no. And so he said, I walked down to the front desk. I said to the front desk lady, I'm going to ruin the rest of your day. And he pauses and he stops just like I did, and he doesn't say anything else. And he waits for the girl to say something. And so when she said, big eyes, she obviously doesn't know what to think. And she's like, okay, well, what is it? He said, I need a late checkout. And she was like, sure. What time do you want to leave? I'll let you check out basically whenever. And so it's interesting because I was in Tennessee last week, and so I tried this. I didn't really need a late checkout, but I wanted to see if it would work. And so the lady fell for it. She absolutely, it worked exactly the way he said it would work. Yeah. It worked so well. In fact, she pulled one of the other girls that worked there, and she said, hey, I'm going to pull this girl over. I want you to do the same thing to her and see if it works. Because I told her after the fact, I told her what I did. Yeah. And so it worked. It worked on the second girl as well. So it was just, it's funny because if you say it the way I said it to you, they don't know if you're getting ready to blow the building up or, I don't know. It's just, I think it shocks them to the core. And by the time you get to that small question of, I need a late checkout, it's a no brainer for them. They just, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense. Cool.
Yeah, so it's go ahead.
I started reading on Sunday, and there was a lot of parts I enjoyed. I took a lot of notes. Maybe I keep reading tonight.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal book, and I'm so glad that you're reading it. Are you familiar with Sandler Sales?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trained Sandler Sales trained, and so that's kind of the framework that is the framework that I go on. So that's interesting. I love it. I absolutely love it. The Ultimate Sales Machine is another one that I've read that's really good.
I haven't read it yet. It's on my to read list, but haven't yet.
Yeah, you'll like it. It's good. Well, listen, I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing with everybody. If you could really quickly just tell everybody where they can find you and on social and all the things that you want people to know. And yeah.
In very short, if you want to find out more about Salesflare, salesflare.com. It's Flare with Flare. And if you want to, you can read about the software. You can find our blog that I mentioned. You can even check the software without signing up for any trial. Just click sign up, and you'll see that you get a walkthrough immediately before it even asks you to create an account. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can do that on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best place. There's only one person with my exact name. I suppose somewhere here below or next to it, you will find my name. Type that into LinkedIn. Send me a connection request, but please include a personal message. I tend to get a lot of spam every day, and it's a bit less now that LinkedIn started cracking down. But and if you don't include a personal message, I have no idea why you're contacting me, and I will just ignore it. But if you include a personal message, I'll certainly get in touch with you, and we can have a chat.
Perfect. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time today, my man. I really appreciate it, and I really enjoyed learning about Salesflare.
Yeah, thank you. This was fun.
Okay, so we're still live, but I don't have a clue how to make us not live.
That's probably a button.
Yeah.
For the viewers, we're looking for the button. Of course.
Yeah, we're looking for the button. Okay, here we go, I think.